before we start with the session, there are some few instructions to all of you.
Hello everyone, I
As
am
per the
Kirti
AICTE
Agrawal,
mandate,
a fourth year
all of you
student
all
in
are
Electrical
aware
Engineering
that
Department.
you
I am
all
a part of the
have
Student
to
Mentorship
maintain
Program Cabinet.
80%
In this
attendance
video,
and
I'll be covering the
60% score
nitty-gritties
in
about
the
the
final
financial
test which we are
aids
going to
and
take at
scholarships
the
provided by the
fifth day of
Institute
this
to
FDP.
undergraduate
So in order
students.
to get the
So
scores,
let
you
us
all
begin with the fee
have to
structure of
very
IIT
carefully
Bombay.
attend
You
all
can
the
just
sessions of
search
the
fee
FDP.
structure of IIT
We
Bombay
have
and then you can
so many excellent speakers we have got for this FDP. So I request all the participants to attend it wholeheartedly. Uh, it's my honor and privilege to welcome today's first guest speaker, Mr. Ajay Agarwal. Uh, to introduce Sir, Sir is the founding partner, Human Design and Innovation Consulting, HDI. Before starting HDI, Sir founded the Design Thinking and Innovation practice at KPMG India. His professional career spans across various roles in advisory, product and service design, process automation, sales and business development and training. Sir has over 16 years of industry experience in manufacturing, FMCG, IT, education, consulting, etc. He has been passionately advocating creation of a design-driven culture in organizations and helping them redesign their customer experience, services, products, and strategy. In his role as an advisor to several key clients, he has demonstrated tangible impact design thinking can have across all the business functions. Sir has a strong voice on social media and frequently writes thought leadership, point of views, and blogs to bring awareness on design thinking in India. Having coached 1000 plus design thinking professionals, Sir also mentors startups as a way to encourage and support innovation in the industry. We are very fortunate to have you here, sir. Over to you, sir. You can start the session.
Thank you so much, Bhakti. Hope I am audible to everyone.
Yes,
If
sir.
you can give me a quick yes, this is to all the participants. If you can give me a quick yes on the chat, let me see how present you are. Okay, Zora says yes. Thank you, Zora, for acknowledging. What about others? No. Okay, no worries. Sure, I see some good yeses. I see a raise of hand. So Aman, there's a raise of hand. Is there a question or something that you have? If it is, then you can just put it on the chat. By the time I'll just share my screen and I'll start what I have planned for you guys today. Just hold on. Here. Is my screen visible? Yes, let me look at the chat. It is only present. Cool. Okay, this screen is also visible. So I think good to go. Um, Yeah, so good morning, everyone. It's a super Monday morning, and I think the last morning that we have for November, Monday morning that we have for November, and then we'll move into December when we'll again have some festive seasons coming up. No worries. I think it's a great time to kind of get introduced to design thinking, and I have put up this agenda for you guys today. When Dr. Shabnam reached out to me talking about that we have this elite group of faculties who need to be introduced to design thinking. So I thought that let me start from the basics, and that's where I am beginning from. So three key things that we're going to cover today, and one is understand design in itself, because I think there's a big myth that goes around design per se. So we'll break some myths around that. The second thing that we will talk about is understand design thinking. What is design thinking? And the third, and that's my promise to you, I'm going to make you experience design thinking live in action. So we're going to experience it. So be attentive, be participative, because you're going to solve some real problems today itself. Cool. So I think disclaimer, and the only disclaimer I have for all of you today is session is fast paced by design. So let's try and see. The first question that I have for you today is this: what according to you is design? let's try and see if some of you can help me answer this question. What, according in your point of view, again, I'm not asking any textbook definitions because I myself hate textbook definitions. So, your point of view around what, according to you, is design. Let's try and see. Yes, what, according to you, is design? Innovation. Okay, that's what Karandasan says. Thanks, Karandasan, for starting the conversation. Yes, anyone else with any other pointers that you have? Design means make easier to access and the desire which you need. Okay, done. Good one. Thanks, Santosh. Raghuvi says adding functionality, expectations of clients. Okay, way of thinking. That's what That's what Mr. Kadam says. Zora says creativity. Yes. Any other point of views? Creative idea coming in mind. Okay, done. Oh, that's so it's just coming in mind. Neha says. Oh no. Okay, that's good. So that's what design is. Drawing decorative patterns. So Priyanka says something on how does it look and feel. How decorative is it? Concept creating. Cool, some interesting point of view, guys. Keep posting your answers because I think it's important you share your point of views, which helps us demystify a lot of things, or which helps us break a lot of myth. Great. So I think I see some interesting answers. So I'll pose. Let me further this question. Is this design? What you see in the picture there is this design? You can pose it on the. You can again post your answer. To prepare or customize an art. Okay, done. Yeah, yeah. Is this design what you see on the picture right now? Visualization, railway track over pavement. Is this design? Yes. So a lot of some of you are saying this is design. Definitely this is design. But if your train of thoughts is going elsewhere, switch tracks, because what you see here is an example of bad design. Okay, done. Let's go. Let's take one more shot on this. Is this design? Let's take this one. Just look at the picture that you have on the right of your screen. Is this design? Yes, this is design, but again, an example of bad design because your room, you'll have to talk to Google because there's no Route 317 ever put in the signage there. Yes. So the first message that I want to leave for you, design is everywhere around us. Anything and everything that you see around, any product, any process, any service, anything that we are using nowadays, there's design in everything that what we're using and what we are doing. But good design needs design thinking, and that's why you need to learn what design thinking is. So let's first break the myth of what is design. So we saw some bad designs. I asked you a question around design, and I think some of you answered functionality, some of you answered aesthetics, but a lot of times, just imagine you walking on the street, on a road, and there are a lot of shops around you. It's kind of a shopping area, and there's a shop which has a window which is of glass, and you see a great shirt or a skirt which is being displayed there, and you say, "Oh, that's a great design." Yeah, traditionally, we have been perceiving design as how something looks and feels, or the aesthetics of it. But design is just not that. Design is how it works. And from today onwards, from now onwards, whenever if someone asks you about what is design, I think what you should be talking about is four key aspects, which is functional, aesthetics, commercial, and emotional, which is, I call it in my world as the face of design. Every design has a face, which is functional. Functional, me typically would be talking about the functionalities, the features, the functions that your design will help ease out or improve. Aesthetics, definitely the look and feel, the beautification, the artwork, and all whatever you talk about. Commercial is all about how well is your design fitting into the customer's pocket when it's landing into your customer's hand. Is can my customer afford it? So taking the aspect of commerciality as well when you're designing something. And the fourth part, which I think a lot of designs miss, but nowadays has become more and more important, and most important is there an emotional connect, or is there an emotional value that your design is able to deliver to the customer? So functional, aesthetic, commercial, and emotional. Four types of human needs, and that's what your design would always encompass. So do not just leave it at functionality. Do not just leave it at aesthetics, but look at the entire face of every design. Let's take an example. For anything and everything that I talk about today, I'm going to give you an example. And I'm also, this is a promise, and I'm also going to give you a practical tool on how can you use something and how can you kind of do this. So how can you use it in your day-to-day life? So let's try and see for face, how can you apply it? I have taken, I'm sure all of you would have used this service, which is Uber as a service. I'm sure all of you would have used the taxi service. So let's try and apply face to this service. A lot of us also kind of relate to designs into products. I mean, we say every product we will kind of relate to functionality, aesthetics, commercial, and emotional. But services are also designed. There's face which is applicable to services as well. Let's try and understand this through this example. Functional, finding a cab nearby, cab booking, payments, etc. And there are a lot of other features that you have, which is the functional aspect of the design or the functionalities that my design has. Aesthetics, the colors used on the app, the conditions of the cabs, driver hygiene, etc. All these are aesthetics that you see in the entire service, right? The third aspect, which is commercial. Now, when I talk about commercial, you see the charges the ride charge that you pay, the free services that you might get, the discount things that you get. All of these are the aspects of commerciality within a design. On For my customer, what how much do you pay and how much would you be able to pay or how much are you willing to pay? I fit my entire design into that aspect itself. And the fourth aspect, which is emotional, which I said is very, very important today. Think about it. You book an Uber and the Uber does not tell you in how much time are they reaching. Or you book an Uber and they don't give you the predictability of in how much time will you be reaching your destination. Yes, there is an assurance of time. There's an emotional security that it gives you, that I know there's some predictability that I have in how much time will it reach and in how much time I will reach my destination. Safety. Remember the days when you would take I'm sure all of you understand the Kali Pili, or you would take any other taxi that you would have, and condition of the taxi is not that great. You would be
with A plus.
you would be kind of in Mumbai it's still less, but in other places, the safety that you have, the way the driver treats. So a lot of these elements are adding emotional value or building an emotional connect with the overall design that you are trying to create. So remember, from now onwards, the first framework that I kind of give you today is design is not just about functionality. Design is not just about aesthetics. Design has a face. हर डिजाइन का एक चेहरा होता है. Every design has a face. So do remember it like that, or do kind of embrace it like that. Whenever you are helping your students design something, push them to look at the face of every design, all the four angles of human needs. Because as humans, we all have these four needs. We want to derive functional value. We want to derive aesthetic value. Want to derive commercial value, and we also want to derive emotional value out of the design that we are trying to use. Great. So I think if this is what design is, the next question that I have for all of you is, what do you think is design thinking? Yes, what is design thinking? Anyone? Again, no textbook definitions, your understanding, your point of view. Designed by humans for humans. Okay, good. By the people, for the people, of the people. Okay, no. Yeah. Anyone else who wants to take a shot at it? Good one. A good start. Anyone who wants to take a shot at it? Human-centered design. Good. Yeah. Anyone else who has any other thoughts around this? What is design thinking? A foolproof approach to attain the face of design. Okay, good one, Sneha. Yes, you've applied your learnings live action. Good one. Raghuveer says empathize. Okay, good. Great, Raghuveer. Anyone else who has any other thoughts on what is design thinking? Converting an idea into reality. Great. Creative product, a way to create a product or a service to serve a targeted audience. Okay, done. Good. Design based on user needs. Simple way to represent something. Okay, that's what Rahul says. Yes. Very cool. I think interesting thoughts and answers. I mean, good, some good perspectives that you've shared. Now, let me tell you what how have I been practicing design for almost for whatever time I have been in this space, and how do I understand design thinking? Okay, so I think there are two aspects to the entire thinking that you have. So I would not say that I mean, you will kind of hear a lot of conversation, a lot of thoughts coming in these next 5 days. But if you ask me, design thinking for me, it's a mindset. Now, let me tell you there are two aspects to this mindset that I kind of understand it by, or I kind of practice it by. The first aspect and the most difficult aspect that design thinking has, or design thinking talks about, or the mindset that people embrace when they embrace design thinking, is problem finding. So it's a human centered way of problem finding. Now, let me tell you, some of you said human centered design, some of you said human centered solution, some of you said problem solving. Okay, let me tell you, I think that the first aspect is it's a human centered way to finding problems, and that's the most difficult of it. A lot of us, think about it. I mean, if I just give you 30 seconds right now and I tell you that, tell me five problems that you would have seen around you, it's difficult because a lot of us, uh, I mean, we have kind of lost this knack of seeing problems around us, the way people live, the way things are happening around us, and we've got too used to what is happening. So I think the difficult part, and I urge to all of you, being the crafters of future minds of India, I think help students to find problems, to spot problems, to see problems around them. That's the first aspect of it. It's a human centered approach to finding problems, and then comes the second part, which is and solving them through experimentation, through continuous experimentation. So let me now focus on the second part of it. When I say solving them through continuous experimentation, it means that there will be failures. It means that there will be you would not have answers. It means that you will be going through a lot of ambiguity in the entire journey. So, but you navigate your way through. You try fast, to fail fast, to succeed sooner. So that's what design thinking brings in. So two aspects: a human-centered approach to finding problems and solving them through continuous experimentation. This is how I have seen. This is what I have experienced design thinking. This is how I have been working with my customers, or I have been working on products and services using this as the frame of what design thinking is. So remember, problem finding, a human-centered way of problem finding, and solving them through continuous experimentation. Now,
Sorry to disturb you, sir.
yep.
Hello, sir. Sir, we are still on the first slide only. So I think,
First slide. Can't you see face right now?
no, sir.
Wait.
It's the basic one, like design is not just what it looks like or feels like.
After that, it is not moved to design it how it works. Design is how it works. Now,
So we can see there are four aspects you have mentioned: functional, emotional, aesthetics, and commercial. Is that the one which you are talking about?
can you see the Uber app snap in between?
Yes, a
Yeah.
mobile.
Yeah, absolutely fine. Yeah, that's what I'm. That's where I
Okay,
am right.
okay, 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 sir.
Sure. Okay, done. So I think now we have a bit of an understanding of design thinking also. Let's think. Let's start with something that I said that I will we will try and solve live in action. So what do you think about this design? This is basically, I'm sure all of you in time where we could travel, and maybe you've started traveling a bit now again. This is basically a flight display board, or maybe when you go to the airports, you see the details of or the information about various flights that are there. What do you think about this design? Let's try and apply some face to it. What do you think about functionality, aesthetics, commercial, and emotion of this design? Yes, the flight display boards that you have on the airport. What do you think about this design? Not understandable easily. Great. Good. Yes. Commercial. Great. Yes. What about others? Your thoughts again. Not a good design. Good. I'm so happy that you're trying to now, for whatever reason, it may be functionally not good, it may be it may be aesthetically not good for whatever reason, but as humans we kind of look at all these four aspects and then judge a design. Congested, your screen, yeah, I mean, yes. So let's try and see. I'm sure all of you have started answering and you mentioned whatever is your perspective around it. Great. So during our journey today in phases, we're going to redesign this. So that's our design experiment. We'll come to that, but let's try and move to. We talked about design thinking being a being two things that we talked about. It's a human-centered approach to finding problems and then solving them through continuous experimentation. But there's a method to madness. There is a method to madness. It is just not that you can you just someday you feel that I'm feeling too creative today or I'm feeling too empathic today and can I kind of design something. No, I think there is a method which has been provided, but I always say that do not just follow it like a hard jacketed method or a straight jacketed method. It is messy, it is creative, so you can always play around with it, but let me just help you build the overall perspective. So we practice design into four phases broadly. One is the first phase is explore. In explore, we talk about empathy. It's in explore is all about problem finding. It's about understanding the people, understanding human problems, and trying to draw insights out of it. And the second part would be ideate, wherein we talk about now thinking about great solutions or the wild ideas that we can have to solve for those human needs. The third aspect that we talk about is create, which is about prototyping on how do we try fast to fail fast to succeed sooner. And the fourth aspect that we talk about is evolve, which is all about how do we craft stories, how do we build a business model around the entire design that we are going to launch, so that we're going to put into a customer's hand. Because in the design world we feel that a design on shelf is no design. So I mean, I firmly believe in that. So a design which cannot land into the hands of the customer and can does not have a financial model around it will not sustain, and it is not a design of it's in itself, right? So four phases. Again, we'll go phase, but this is for you to just create a mental visual picture of how design flows. So it's explore is all about explore, ideate, create, evolve. Explore is all about empathy and insights. Ideate is all about brainstorming and looking at what great ideas. Create is all about prototyping, and evolve is all about storytelling and business around the design. Let's go phase wise now. Let's try and go deeper into each of these phases to try and understand how this is impacting. And I will have certain questions for all of you for each phase. So the first, so the our design challenge I talked about is this that so meet Dinah, a frequent business traveler. I'm sure all of you would have experienced this. A senior professional with a global consulting firm and has to make short travels frequently. Let me give you 30 seconds to just go through it, and then maybe I will kind of recite it once again. This is a design challenge for the day. Okay, great. I'm sure all of you have gone through it by now. So, a frequent business traveler, senior professional with a global consulting firm, and has to make short travels frequently for client meetings. Loves the philosophy of being just in time, always in a hurry, and hates things that are cluttered as she gets confused and jittery seeing cluttery things. Great. So, she is Dinah. She's who Diana is for you. And now just kind of embody what Diana would be going through or what you go through when you visit to a airport and you see this cluttery a sign a flight display board, and what do you feel? Just kind of embody that, okay, and live it and just kind of stay with it. We'll progress to the next stage. So the first question that I'm talking about, which is the explore phase that we will look at. I'm giving you an equation. We love equations and we love true and false questions. So let me give you one equation today. Empathy is equal to requirements gathering. Okay, so that's the question that I have for you today. What do you think is the answer? True? Okay, done. Good one. So I got the first answer true. Yes. What about others? If anyone else can also add to it. True, Professor Swati says true. Thank you so much, Professor Swati. Anyone else? Come on, guys. It's true or false? Yeah, you can just be quick on just typing T, F. Also, it's fine. True. Okay. Anyone else with any other answers? I think we are 100 plus people on this on in this session. Anyone else who can? I need more answers. Neha says true. Okay. True. Dr. Madhuri says true. Yes. Anyone else who has an answer to this question? Priyanka says true. Okay, cool. I think good. So great. I think super. I think you understand what empathy is not. Great. So the answer is false. Let me tell you that. So the first, this is again a myth that we are breaking. A lot of us, lot of us feel that empathy is just requirements gathering, wherein we go to the customer and we ask them that, hey, what do you need? We'll give you a list of it, and you will make a list of it, and you will come back and you will say, this is what we need to design for. No, empathy is not that. Empathy is equal to, let me give you the right equation, and then I'll also explain it to Different perspectives. Voice talking to me, not the process of MRI. Great, good one, Sanjana. By the way, what I just did live for all of you is change your experience. It was no more about an MRI scan. It was about aliens. It was about your childhood memories. It might be about Star Wars, whatever your imagination was, whatever your imagination of aliens and space was. It was all about that. And just to show you what happened or what the designs look like. By the way, let me tell you, they did not touch the technology at all. The technologies remained same. It's just that they redesigned the entire experience around the technology, and experience changed. And think of it, if for us as adults, this experience changed, for children, definitely it was changed. And let's come back to the data that we talked about. Initially, it was 81% of the pediatric patients had to be anesthetized. bodies which are burnt at the banks of the Ganga, and whatever the remains, they are then put into the river, right? So we were wanting to redesign these ghats that are there in UP, Bihar, and various places where the Ganga river flows. So we went to one of the ghats in UP, and we were doing this entire empathy conversation there, or empathy study there. So interestingly, when we went and spoke to a few people initially to try and figure out, everyone said the river should be clean, Ganga should be clean, which was, we were really happy that obviously everyone has an intent towards the Ganga being clean, but when we were silently observing, we saw the same people going and putting the ashes, going and putting the last remains of the human, or of their ancestor or their relative, they were going and putting into the Ganga. Now, this was an interesting conflict that we observed. That they're saying it should be clean, but they're doing something else. Now we went again to them to go and converse deeper. Now with different set of questions, we said we saw something interesting there. You said it should be clean, but you only went and dirtied the river. They said we want it to be clean, but our religion, our beliefs um, tell us we need to go and put the remains. This is a religion saying this. Now think of it, guys. Now an interesting situation that was there. So they said our religion says that we need to go and put the final remains into the water of Ganga, so that our entire so that they can achieve nirvana. Now I have given you a live situation. This is what actually happened. Now for all of you, what was the insight for all of us here? What was the insight for us that we drew out of the entire conversation and the empathy study? Yes, anyone who can tell us what the insight was. And this will give you a very, I mean, this will tell you why am I so emphasize so and why am I emphasizing on uh, OEI and not just going and asking questions. What was the insight from the entire situation for us? So hope all of you understood what was the situation. I'm sure all of you would have known this tradition that's there. So saying that we want the river clean, but going and putting into the Ganga water. Now tell me, what was the insight for all of us? Number one, we could not be first, and we understood that we could not change the religion and beliefs. That will be too difficult for us to do. So what did we do? What was the insight that we drew? Life is full of contradictions. Yeah, but for us, the design insight, that was a very powerful insight. Okay, I'll tell you, uh, and this will kind of give you a good thought. The insight for all of us here was, everyone said that we have to put the ashes, or we have to put the remains into Ganga water and not Ganga river. Now think of it. Now think of it that it was Ganga water and not Ganga river. So if I now tell you that it's clean Ganga, which is our mission, and the last rights use case that we are trying to attack, the remains have to be it has to be submerged into Ganga water and not Ganga river. So how can you still keep the river clean with the remains being put into Ganga water? Think of solutions. You can have so many things. You can have ponds. You can have maybe a different separate lane. You can have a pot. There's so many different ways. That's the power of empathy. That's the power of understanding users in their own life, in their own way, and then trying to think of how can you still keep the belief intact, and then try and make a solution around this. Yeah. So what we propose a design to them, a different guard design to the government there. But again, the message that I want to give to all of you is, remember, it's about requirements exploration and not requirements gathering. Observe, engage, immerse, and that will give you a lot of insight which normally would not be visible to you. Cool. So now let's go to our design challenge. You all remember Dinah? So the first activity that we will do, I'm giving you not more than a minute. What you need to do is remember Dinah, what her situation is, who she is, and the slide display board. What are her needs? That's what you need to list down. Everyone, if you can just start typing down, thinking about the needs. I'm giving you a minute, not more than that. Type down all the needs that you think Dinah has. Yes, come on, let's type down the needs that you think Dinah has. I'm sure all of you have been travelers. So all of you understand what is this all about? Flight time number, gate number. Okay, good, done. Good. Yes. Anyone else? What are her needs? She needs clearly specific, timely information. Great. Good one. Flight schedule. Flight schedule. Only gate number. Okay, done. Cool. I need more answers, guys. Come on. I think this is a live design experiment that we're doing. And if you're not doing design, then you're not learning design. Let me be very, very straight. If just by knowing the concept, if just by saying that these are the 5 tools or 10 tools that I've learned, and I can practice, then no, you cannot. Let me give it in writing. Okay. So yes, feeling like fear, excitement. Okay, to find the flight in the big list. She's trying to collect information. She need not search for her flight in such a huge list. Cool. I think you have some thoughts now. And for others, I'm assuming that you already have jotted down some thoughts of yours, because I'll again repeat, if you're not doing design, you're not learning design. So if you're not with me in this entire journey, by the end of it, or in the entire 5 days, if you're not participating and doing whatever speakers are coming and telling you, you're not learning it. Okay. So just be with whatever activities we are doing today. So great. So you have some thoughts around what are our needs. I'm happy that just keep those thoughts intact, because in design, the first phase is the most ambiguous phase, which is the empathy and insight phase. Because here, uh, we do not know a lot of answers. We do not know a lot of things. We are exploring. We are kind of creating hypotheses and validating our hypothesis. That's what we keep doing in our first phase of it. So great. Keep these thoughts. Build on it. If you kind of get more thoughts by the time we move to the next stage, keep building on your thoughts of what are our needs. Cool. Let's go to the next question now. So we are going to the second phase of design, which is about ideate. Okay. So a question for all of you. And be honest, guys. Come on, let's be honest to ourselves. Where do you get your best ideas in the day? I mean, the wackoest ideas, the best thoughts, or the best, I mean, wildest thoughts, ideas that you get in your day. Where do you get them? When we are alone. Okay. In relaxed time. Okay. Yes. Anyone else? In nature. Okay. Yeah. Morning in shower majorly. Yeah, good one. Yes, sleeping while sleeping. Run, great. Reflect on your own life, guys. Yes, thank you, Sandeep and others who while when sitting idle early morning in meditation. Yeah. Yes, anyone else with any other thoughts? When you think, okay, Santosh. Uh, so when yes, anyone else with any other thought? So Santosh is on demand. So whenever he thinks, he gets wild ideas and great ideas. Yes. Other thoughts? Dr. Jyoti says through experiencing the situation with discussing while discussing, when faced with a problem, brainstorming while driving on a regular route. That's what Sneha says. Good. Um, while in a deep need of solving the problem. Yep. Okay. Super. Okay, I'll tell you. I'll give you my answers also. I get my best ideas when I am on an emotional high. Now that emotional high can be negative emotions, those emotions can be positive emotions. But I get my wildest of ideas then. Everyone has their own space and place of getting great ideas or getting their great thoughts that they kind of are seeing that this is some sparkle that we have. But most of us, if you would have seen, most of us would have not mentioned that we get the great idea at our workplace. Now, we need to reflect on that wherever we work or wherever we are working. I think a lot of us did not mention that. So think about it. What's so wrong at a workplace, or how do we turn around our workplace there? But let's try and get to the story that I'm talking about, ideate. Okay. And in this story, I'm going to make you experience magic. Okay. I'm going to make you experience magic, guys. Yes. So for experiencing magic, I have a question for all of you. How many of you have been to a theme park? A theme park can be, let me give an example, Disneyland or SL World or Della Adventure Park or any of these, Apughar, if you're in whatever. So Zora has been to one. Yes, what about others? I'm sure you would have been with kids, you would have been there. I'm sure everyone would have. Yes, so cool. I think some of you have mentioned yes. I'm sure others have also been there. So now my question for all of you is, so reflect on your theme park visit, last theme park visit, or whenever you visited there, and what is the biggest pain uh, that you felt when you were being to a theme park, or what is the biggest challenge that you felt when you were when you had been to a theme park? The biggest pain that you have. Yes, Santosh, you've been to a theme park in Ooty. Good. So, what was the biggest pain that you felt at the theme park? Standing in a queue. That was what I says about surrounding nature. Yes. Anyone else who has any other? It was so huge that walking was so exploring the entire thing, finding places there. Okay, done. Good. High fees. Super. Yes. What about what else? Some rides are age restriction. Good. Pin pressure of work. So at the theme park also Santosh was feeling the pressure of workplace. Okay, good. Or you had a theme park at your workplace itself and you were on a ride at your workplace itself. Okay, done. High rides, hygiene. Cool. I think interesting. Some interesting thoughts that you mentioned. But the first thought that I kind of saw and that was mentioned by Zora was standing in the queue. And I think that's the biggest pain for most of us. That we go to a ride, suppose you enter the theme park and you go to a ride and there's a long queue there. You go to the next ride, there's a long queue there. So you end up wasting time at every ride that you be there. So you kind of now you've limited number of rides that you can be to. Second, exploring and finding the various places there. Third, food, finding the right kind of food that you would do. All of these things. Perfect. Now, this is the problem that Disneyland figured out, that most of the people who visit our theme parks, okay, they face this problem of standing in the queue. They don't want to stand in the queue. They come to the theme park right from the entry to till visiting all the rides to anything that they do there. They don't want to wait. They want to go and experience it and just move to the next experience. That's what they want to do. So what they did, interestingly, the first time that they questioned this entire thing, that can our theme park or can our Disneyland be without queues? Think of it, it's a radical thought. Radical thought that can this be without queues at there are no queues at all. You just go there, visit every ride, have enjoyed whatever is the preferred ride. Not that you have to visit everyone. Whichever is the preferred ride, you visit there, you enjoy it, you have your food, you stay, whatever you want to do, and you are done for the day. Great. So what they did interestingly was they said, Zora, you're planning to visit a Disney park today and you have planned your entire trip there. So right now, here itself, you can feed and you can tell us your preferences. You can tell us what your preferences are, and all of this would be fed, customized into this magic band, the Disney magic band. And once you visit the park, or this will be in fact couriered to your place as well. Once you visit the park, right from the entry, you have the Disney band. You can go and scan it, powered by QR technology. You can go and scan it, and you can just straight away move in. You go to a ride, you can scan it, you can move in. You've already told us your food preferences. Scan it at a place, and the food will be delivered to you at that place rather than you going and finding a restaurant. You go to the hotel where you're wanting to stay within the park. You go there and scan it, and you straight away get an access to your room. Now, think about it. The first time someone would have thought there are no queues that you will have, and you will be able to enjoy the entire Disneyland. It was a great thought. But now let's come to some data as well. Okay, because I always love talking about data as well on what was the impact of this. So I think one metric that Disney was really proud of after launching this entire digital planning tool that they did was that they said on average from every visitor or every guest who used to visit to Disneyland, they were on an average they were able to save 2 hours in his day. Now think of it, guys. Think of this as Disney. Why were you so happy about saving 2 hours in someone's life? Why were you so kind of gungo about saving 2 hours in someone's life on a day in Disneyland? Yes, anyone who can tell me why were they so gungo about it? Great work. Okay, done. Good. Anyone else who has any other thoughts? Why were they so gungo about? So sorted. Okay. So solve the customer problem is what you're mentioning. Customer satisfaction. That's what Sneha says. Good. Even I was talking about that only, Sneha. Yes. Anyone else with any other thoughts? Guys, remember Disney is a business. Disney is a business, right? So they're not a non-for-profit. They are a business. Increase in sales as well. Repeat customers and fine. That's what you're saying. Okay, let me ask you a question, Sneha, this time. Sneha, you have to answer this. Okay, suppose you go to a SL World and you've whatever preferred fly things and you kind of visited, and you still have 2 hours in your hand. What would you do in those 2 hours, Sneha? Great, I completely kind of agree with customer problem solved and all these things. Let's tell me, Sneha, what would you do now? You still have 2 hours in your hand, and you visited all your rides, you've done everything what you had preferred. In those 2 hours, what enjoy at their restaurant. Great. Or you may want to explore 1 or 2 more rides, or you may want to buy some kind of stuff from there. I would explore more, which in turn means you will spend more. It's as simple as that. You explore something more, you will spend more, which means more business for. Yes, and uh, that's why they were so gung about it. Till today, this has been the most profitable experiment or the most profitable design experiment that Disney has ever made. And the message for all of us here is this: a culture of experimentation starts with trusting the most radical ideas. They can sometimes become your best experiments that you've done in your life. So remember, next time a student comes to you, or next time a co-faculty comes to you, or next time a staff member comes to you, or next time your management comes to you with something which is wild, with something you believe that is questioning the status quo, do not just do not just tell them no, 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 this does not work. Trust it. Let's try it. Let's experiment with it, and you will see that magic happening. You will see that culture of experimentation growing in from there. So that's my second message for you from this story, that do build a culture of experimentation within the organizations or within the institutions that you all kind of represent today and you all are a part of. Yes. So tool, you remember we talked about tools. So now I think I use this tool a lot whenever I need to disrupt something. So I call it the tool of possibilities. Okay, I mean, but the name is what if, but I typically call it the tool of possibilities. So let me tell you how this tool works. Okay, for you to understand this tool, let me try. So some you will have to participate with me. Okay, so Sarita, we'll go with Sarita this time. To start a restaurant. Okay, I'm sure all of you. Sarita, you want to start a restaurant now. What are certain rules? And all of you can participate. Okay, it's not just Sarita. Sarita is, I've just started talking to her, but all of you can participate. What are the rules of setting up a restaurant business? If all of you can just list down that. If today I tell you that you have to set up a restaurant business, what are certain rules that are there to run that business or that business to start? Rules of setting up a restaurant business. What would you need? What are the rules of that business? Yes, anyone who can tell me. Patience. Good one, Sanjana. That's for any business. Yeah. So good one, Sanjana. Yes. But location. So you need a place. Great. Type of customer in that area. Good. Market. So which is the location that you mentioned? Selecting a place. Market. Making time slots. Okay. Space. Money. Business opportunity. Taste. Good food. So menu. Chef. Yes. What else? Think of it. What are the other rules? Ambience, you might need ambience, food, yeah, hygiene, licenses, good regulatory licenses. Great, I see some interesting things mentioned. So you've mentioned some rules there. Parking, good. I think you mentioned some rules there. Now let's pick up one rule. Okay, let's pick up the rule of space. Okay, so you said you need some space to run a restaurant business. What if what if, and that's the powerful question, what if a restaurant business has to be run without space? What if a restaurant business has to be run without space? How can you do it? Tell me. What if a restaurant business has to be run without space? How can you do it? Online, good. What about a food truck? Unlimited and efficient. Yeah, Zomato, good. Cloud kitchens is another way. Yes. sourcing food or good taste. So you have home food, you can activate various homemakers who kind of have great cooking fair this thing, and you kind of source food from there. Food on wheels, takeaways, online platform, super. So now, by the way, you've just disrupted a restaurant business. You've just disrupted a restaurant business, and that's the power of possibilities. So what you've done is you've converted a constraint of a business, you've converted a constraint into a possibility of what are the new things that we can do. Now think of it, we've just applied it to one constraint. If you apply to each of these constraints, and you can think of so many different permutation combinations that can come out of for the new way of doing that business, or for the new way of looking at that solution. So think about it, guys, that how can you convert constraints into possibilities? What if is one tool, but you can have many more ways to kind of convert this. But that's how creative people, that's how design thinkers think, that we need to convert constraints into possibilities. Let's try and see how can we do that. Okay, done. So now let's go back to Dinah. So you had jotted down certain needs, you had certain thought of for her needs. What are the solutions that we can give to Dinah? Or what are the solutions that we can offer to Dinah for the needs that you had thought of? Now think of it. What solutions can you offer? Now we are going to some a space where we are greatest at without even understanding the problem. We do have solutions in mind a lot of times. Today you have some problems that you've thought of. So now think of what solutions can you offer to Dinah? Let me have a look. What solutions are you offering to Dinah? You remember for the slide display board, I'm talking about that problem right now. So what solutions can you offer to Dinah? Think of her needs and then basis that propose a solution. Prior information on ticket itself, great. Or maybe on the boarding pass, if not on the ticket, good. That can be a part. All information catered to her through a message on her phone itself. Chalked out itinerary. So you give her a paper where the entire itinerary is chalked out in itself right at the time of check-in. Okay, barcode on ticket, put scanners at different places. Or maybe you can have a good one, Dr. Vikas, or you can give them a magic band. You can give her a magic band, or maybe you can say a indigo magic band. So you put it here and the entire information is on that itself. You do everything through that magic band itself. Okay, done. Yeah, I'm just adding my thoughts also, guys. Okay, barcode reader displays info on in user language, good. Yes, what about any other thoughts, guys? Maybe an app which gives a map of the entire airport. Nowadays the airports are also very big. If you go to the new airports, so a map it's in itself which kind of gives any entire information there customized to your requirement through announcements. Good, so you might have personalized announcements as well on online app. Super. SMS. Now think of it. You've been able to think of so many different ideas. And because you had understood, or because you have thought of the problem, because you thought of her needs are not to look at the display board because she's not getting any fun there. She needs to know how much, whatever information is needed to her flight, schedule, gate number. Precisely, more or less, this is what she wants to know. Why look at the screen? You should get it in your app. You should get it in your phone, or through WhatsApp or any other way that we just kind of discussed. Super. So I think now we have crossed the ideate stage as well. Now let's move to the third stage that we move into, which is create, which is about prototyping. Let's try and see what do you think about what is a prototype. Let's try and see what do you think about a prototype. Quickly, guys. What do you think about a prototype? What is a prototype? The question is, what is a prototype? Again, your point of view, no textbook definition, because I myself don't know the textbook definition. Prototype is law, rules, working model with essential functionality. That's what Professor Swati says. Sanjana says rules. Sarita says plan. Okay. Yes. Anyone else who has a point? Yes. Any other thoughts, guys? Come on, come on, come on. What is a prototype? Okay, I'm sure some of you would be thinking about it, but I think Professor Swati said a working model with an essential functionalities. A lot of us think of prototypes as working models. But guys, in design, prototype is not may not be a, I'm not saying not, but it may not be a working model. In design, prototype means this. anything that can give a near to real feel to the customer. Anything that can give a near to real feel to the customer, rough enough that we can throw it away, fast enough that we don't get emotional with it. Rough enough that it can be thrown away, fast enough that we don't get emotional with it. Prototypes are meant to fail. Prototypes are designed to fail. Remember, we talked about try fast to fail fast to succeed sooner. Prototype actually helps you do that. Okay. Now I'll tell you how to prototype also. We'll come to that. But first, let's listen to this story that I have for you. Now, this story is of a bank, a contact center or a backend center of a bank. I'm sure all of us know contact centers because we would have been calling customer care services of a bank and we would be trying to get our problems resolved from there. So this is precisely of a contact center of a bank. Now this bank went through a lot of expansion. I mean, there were a lot of new customers that they got, and it went through a huge expansion, due to which their contact center capacity had to be increased. So they hired a lot of fresh graduates, or newbies is how they called them. They hired a lot of fresh graduates from colleges. So I'm sure we all understand how hiring is done for fresh graduates. So they kind of hired a lot of fresh graduates, and without spending too much time on the entire training them, because there was a huge pressure that they had of the expansion, they with some minimal amount of training, they put these newbies or they put these freshers into the on the floor for taking calls. Now, interestingly, what started happening was their NPS stands for Net Promoter Score, basically, which means customer satisfaction score is what you can say. So their NPS or the customer satisfaction score suddenly started dropping. Now, when they went deeper into this, when they empathized, when they went deeper into understanding what is actually happening, what they figured out was that the customers had formed a perception about this bank or the contact center of the bank, which was about that for getting any problem resolved from here, we will need to make three calls. Even if it's smallest of the problems, we will need to make three calls. The first call would be we'll give them a call, we'll tell them a problem. There'll be a newbie on the call or a fresh graduate on the call. He would not know the answer to our problem. He will give us some mediocre response to move out of the call because they need to end the calls fast. So he will give them some mediocre response to move out. The second call you make, it'll still be a newbie, still giving a mediocre response and moving out. Third call, when you raise your voice, you start shouting. It's then you will see a manager or a veteran, is how they call them, who will come on the call and help solve the problem. Now think of it. If you were a customer of a bank and you had to make for any call, you had to make three calls for any problem to be resolved, you had to make three calls. What would you do finally? A lot of us, if I had been in that situation, I would have left the service. I would have left the bank and opened an account with some other bank. Yes, this is what started happening. Customer satisfaction dropped and they started losing customers. When they went dig deeper into what is the challenge, what they figured out was that this behavior of not accepting I don't know and going and finding an answer was something that has got into the culture of the bank with these newbies thing, because the newbies started feeling that if I say I don't know, people around me will think that I'm a fool. I don't know the answer, I'm a fool. So now the challenge for them, or the design challenge for them, was how do we design a culture of I don't know within the bank. So or within the contact center, that was a challenge. Great. So a wicked problem or a design problem to be solved. So this is the first experiment. Now the first experiment was they installed. I'm sure all of you are aware of these VIP lights that are there on VIP vehicles. The lights that are there on VIP vehicles, right? Just teet on, these kind of lights that go on. So what they did was they bought these lights and they installed these lights on the entire floor. Okay. Now the message was that for you're on the call, you're facing a customer problem, you don't know the answer, you push the button and the light will go on. Someone from the a veteran or someone from the floor will rush to help you out. Okay, done. Now, this was the solution that they launched first. Do you think problem solved? Do you think the problem was solved? I just told you, install those lights. You're on a call. You see that you don't know the answer. You press the button, the light goes up, and someone will rush and help you. Problem solved. Santosh says yes. What about others? Come on, guys, give me your thoughts. Give me your answers. Zora, I'll just repeat it. I'll just repeat it right after this story. So I'll repeat that. Don't worry. Yes, problem solved. Anyone? Yes, Zora says yes. Problem solved. What about others? Okay, let me tell you, the problem was not solved. In fact, the problem aggravated. Why? 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 Till now, only me and my manager knows that I don't know the answer because of whatever, because it's in a closed circle. If I press that button, the entire floor will know that I don't know, and the entire floor will start thinking that I am a fool. Yes, the entire floor will start thinking that I'm a fool. So the light, they never pressed that button. So the lights never went up. So the problem still was there. NPS was still dropping, but there was no lights. Yes, there was a fear of judgment. Lot of times problems are emotional, not functional, not aesthetic, not commercial. But lot of times problems are also emotional. This was an emotional problem. Yes, a fear of judgment. So the first experiment failed, but there was a learning. So they went on to the second experiment, which was of a bat manager. What they did, they said, pick up all these lights and install it in a room. So they installed this entire all these lights in a room. The buttons were still there with these people, and there was a SWAT team, which was the team of veterans or the team of senior guys, who was allocated that you will see these lights, and whenever, so the rule was still same. You face a question you don't know the answer of, you push the button, the light will go up in the room, and a veteran will come and help you out or will rush to help you out. Now tell me, is the problem solved? Okay. Zura says yes. Shashikant says no. Sanjana says no. Precisely, the problem was not solved. The reason behind the challenge was driving a culture of I don't know. But the problem was the culture was now dependent on a few veterans who were not available by choice, or they were not available by chance because of whatever work they were also doing as a way of as a part of their life. So the help never came in. So there was a loss of trust on this second experiment also. Now, but there was a learning. Now came the third experiment. The third experiment was a bad chat. Now, let me explain what a bad chat was. So they launched the entire chat system across the organization. So there was a new chat system that they installed into the computers, and they said, you face a question, you need to put it on the chat window. Now, the solution was not the chat. The solution came in now, which was the first few questions that were ever posted on the chat window were by the CEO, by the senior most people in the organization, saying that I don't know this answer. Where can I find this answer? And that spread like wildfire. That message saying that this system is safe. If my seniors can say I don't know on this system, even I can say. And a lot of times these seniors, when they posted questions, these newbies helped them find the answer. So the message that got passed on was this system is safe. We can say I don't know, and this became a big hit into the organization, which ultimately drove the culture of I don't know within the organization. So it was no more people saying giving mediocre responses to move out of the situation rather than finding the right answer and then responding to the customers or to the internal managers or people as well. Now, the message for all of you here, the message for all of us here is sometimes no special analysis or research can predict what works. It's only build, fail, iterate, repeat. I'll again repeat it. It's build, fail, iterate, repeat is the only way to find the right answer. And that's what precisely prototyping is. That's what prototyping does. It helps you try fast, to fail fast, to succeed sooner. Let's try and see some tools that can help you prototype. As I told you, that you need not have working models for design prototypes. You can have anything, and that's what Zoha, I'm just repeating it for you, that you can have anything that gives a near to real feel to the customer, rough enough that it can be thrown away, fast enough that we don't get emotional with it, because prototypes are meant to be failed. They are meant to be tested and failed and thrown out and look at the next version of it, right? A lot of times the problem with us is when we move into working models, we've already spent so much time, we've already spent so much money into it, that if we fail, if the customer says it doesn't work, it becomes very difficult for us emotionally, financially, time wise, because we've invested so much of resources into it, to go back and redo stuff. So prototype can be a paper model, clay model, verbal announcement, storyboard, blueprint. I've used most of them. So there's so many different ways to prototype. There some, there can be many more that you can do. I mean, I've just shown some examples to you. If you see uh, this one here, this is basically a medical equipment which was first prototype like this. So this is a glue stick. This is a box, and this is our clip that we use for for clothes and all these things. So the first version of of this prototype was designed like this, and it finally evolved into a medical equipment which can scan within the mouth and do all of that, right? So remember, I'm again repeating, prototyping is all about build, fail, iterate, repeat. Something that can give near to real feel to a customer, uh, rough enough, it can be thrown away fast enough that we don't get emotional with it. That's what a prototype is for me. Okay, done. So I would have loved to give you to sketch it and show it to me. Or let's do it. Okay, fine. You can still on your cameras. Bhakti, they can on their cameras, right? Everyone, if there's a possibility they can on their cameras or no?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, I give you a minute, guys. So if you can just quickly sketch your idea, whatever your idea or solution was, if you can just visually sketch your idea on a piece of pen and using a piece of pen and paper, and I would want to see some of them. A minute. It's rough and fast. Remember, you don't beautify it. Just visually represent your idea. That's how we will prototype it. Yes, come on. Let's try and see. I will give you a minute, and then I'll ask some of you to on your cameras and show it to me.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
You want participants to switch on their cameras, right?
Yes. Once they do it,
Yes, I've already given them rights.
sure. Come on, go 30 more seconds, 30 seconds done, 30 more seconds. Let's see whatever solutions you had proposed. You have to prototype them. You have to just sketch it out and show us. Yes, Dr. Nazreen, if you can show us your sketch. Okay, Dr. Nazreen went off the camera, so I thought. Aman, if you can show us your design. Okay, I think 1 minute is up. Anyone who wants to showcase their design, I would love to see your sketch. Anyone who wants to showcase their design, you can just put on your camera and showcase it. Show it to me. No, no one. Or if you want to volunteer for it, you can just uh, either s- either say a yes on the chat, and then you can showcase, or some way if you can just show me your design. I'm sure all of you are just thinking of that my drawing is bad, and but guys, it is not about the quality of drawing. It's about visually representing and prototyping your idea. I mean, yeah, I'm the worst sketcher ever, but I still use a lot of sketches to kind of showcase my idea and take feedback on that. No one? Come on, at least one. Zora, if I can see yours, or Santosh, Sanjana, Sarita. Yes, Sarita. Okay, done. Good. Uh, Scroll. Just 1 second, Sarita. Just stay put so that I can see it. Don't shake too much. Super. Done. Good ones. Good one. I think super. I think a lot for you, Sarita, for trying it out. Guys, this is the power of it. Now, as soon as Sarita sketched it, I think if we see sketches, because I'll tell you, there's a logic behind why am I saying whatever I'm saying. Good one. One more. I see. Yes, an eye that you did and a nose. Very good. I don't know your name. It says 100210. So
Yes, sir, it's Dr. Pushpadanta Jain.
okay, Dr. Jain. Cool. Aman also is showing something. Super good one, guys. So I think this is the power of it. I'll tell you, research says that almost 85% of human brain talks to visuals, and only 15% of it talks to words. So a lot of times, whatever we try to communicate and whatever we try to showcase it through words, and human brain cannot relate to it. So remember, try and show visuals, show physical, so that our brain can relate to it, and then we can give feedback, or we can get feedback which is more valuable rather than words. So I just made you do a small experiment, but guys, get into this habit of sketching and showcasing rather than good one, Santosh. I saw it. Super ticket information. Uh, Great. I think good personal information. Great. So you did a boarding pass there, if I'm not wrong. Uh, Superb, Santosh. So good. Now we can go back to our story. So we've now prototyped it. We've now understood. We've moved to the third stage and we've crossed that third stage. Let's move to the fourth stage of it, which is the final stage, evolve. Now, I'll give you a statement, true or false again. I love true or false questions. So true or false, storytelling is boasting about your product or service. True or false? True. True. Santosh says true. Shashikant says true. Yes. Anyone else who has any other thoughts? False. Good. Dr. Jain says false. Okay. Zora says educating. Nasim says true. Okay, cool. I think great. True to an extent. That's what Sarita says. Super. I think for people who said true, sorry, you are wrong. Storytelling is not about boosting. No, is not about boasting about your product or service. I will now tell you what it is all about. I give you 30 seconds. 30 seconds only. Go through these four billboards of IKEA. Go through these four billboards, and then we will quickly see what is storytelling. Okay, I'll just tell you. So, Santosh, you've just got married. You've just got married, um, and you're about to. So your in-laws have just said that we are. By the way, we've come to your area and we want to. We are visiting your home as well. It's a complicated situation. You want your first impression to be superb on your in-laws, so you need your house to be picture perfect. Great. Sarita, your son has gone for engineering and he calls you that, hey, mom, I'm coming back home. And by the way, I have also got married there only, and I'm bringing my wife along with me. Your home was always designed for one couple, which is you and your husband, and a child that you had, your son. Now there's one more couple coming back. You are pregnant, and you've always wanted one single child that you wanted. You have done your planning and everything for that. You get into your first sonography, and the sonography says, congratulations, you have twins. Again, a complex situation. You will have to redesign a lot of stuff in your house. Maybe you're just doing a renovation of your home, and there are her ideas and his ideas of the renovation. Now, what is interesting in all of this? If you can just tell me what is interesting in all these things that you see here. What is interesting in all these four communications that you saw? Oh, solutions to every situation a person can face. The connection with the problem, with the resolution. Great. Good. I'm so happy to see that most of us would have been somewhere able to relate to one of these situations or some of these situations. Now think of it. IKEA could have said that I have got these gate products, so many SKUs, so many products, ISI mark, AG mark, this mark, that mark, benchmarked, all of this. But they never said it. They said, if you are in this situation, and very subtly in smaller letters, they said, by the way, there's a page for that in the IKEA catalog. Precisely. That's what storytelling is all about. It's not about boasting about your product. It's in fact about making your product relevant to the customer's lives. It's about making your product relevant to your customers, your users' life. That's what storytelling is. Stories make great solutions meaningful. And so rather than boasting, think about connecting it to your users or customers' life, and they will now understand that, by the way, for my this situation, because I am having my larger life that's going on, and your product is playing some role in that life. So you make your product meaningful to your customer rather than boasting about your product. That's what storytelling is all about, and that's the power of stories. Now let's talk about the tool. If I now tell you that maybe the last pitch that you ever made, the last pitch that you ever made, reflect on was the hero of your pitch, or last presentation that you ever made, selling something to someone, or who was the hero of your pitch? Lot of times, or in fact, most of the times that I've seen such kind of pitches happening, I have seen either the product or the organization or my boss or me myself becoming the hero of the story. But that is a wrong way to do storytelling, or that's not the impactful way of storytelling. The tool that you can use is the first part that you do is who is the hero of your story, and it's most of the times, or it should be, the person whose life is going to change from your idea, or the person, the user whose life is going to become easy, or whatever transformation is going to happen, he or she is the hero of your story. The second part of your story should be about describing the current challenge. What is your user going through? What is his or her life is all about? What are the challenges that he's facing? What are the conflicts in his or her life? That's the second piece of the story. The third part, when the tension is at its peak, when the conflicts are at its peak, it's then you introduce, we call it the climax point, is then you introduce that, by the way, I have a solution for you guys. By the way, I have a solution which can help this person live a much, much better life. That's the climax point. When it's at its peak, you introduce the idea. And the last part, which is the moral of the story, is that with this idea, the person will live this kind of a new dream life that he or she can have. Now, if you think of it, every story, any Bollywood movie, think of Bahubali, okay? Or any story that you talk about, good stories are based on this. Who is the hero of Bahubali? Bahubali himself, Amrendra Bahubali, the father. Describe the challenge. Yes, his mother, his mother got him killed. His maternal uncle killed him. His uncle and his brother are treacherous and always planning against him. He lost his kingdom. All of it. These are problems. Idea or the solution was his son. His son came in, defeated all of them, and all of that happened. And by the way, the new life was the kingdom came back. He got his mother released. The kingdom came back, and the whole disciples or the Janta also, they were living a better life. Now, broadly, every great story or good story is based on this framework or this approach. So do look at, whenever you make your next story, remember, they make your solution or they make your idea meaningful. So do look at how do you craft a story around this framework. You will see them becoming more and more if impactful and effective in any space, in any way that you're using storytelling. Great. So now let's go to the last exercise that we have for our day, and then we will end our session, which is, we talked about the prototypes that you just created. You have to craft a one line story for your prototype, only a one line story, but remember, it has to be meaningful for Dyna and not a product centered story, so, or a solution centered story, remember. So you have to craft a one line story. You can use any language, but something that Dyna can relate to. Let's use your your brains and try and see if you can give me a one line story around the design that you just created. Yes, a one line story, guys, come on. Problem to your solution. Great. Anyone else? Anyone else with any other thoughts? I mean, I can think of it. Journey आपकी, information हमारी. Maybe that's a one liner that I would want to give. We are for you. Oh, that's a one word that you've done. We are for you. Sarita says, good. Yes. Confused. We have a solution. That's what Sneha says. What about others? Hey guys, keep thinking about it. I see same people responding. I'm sure there are 100 more people who can respond. Look nowhere, solution right here. Solution of problem. That's what a one line for Dr. Madhuri is. Super. Good. So keep thinking about how do you craft stories around the designs that you're creating. It can be the course that you're running. It can be any product or anything that you're trying for people to become meaningful and they kind of relating to your solution. Cool. With this, we will just circle back on what we started off from. So we talked about explore, ideate, create, evolve. And we talked about these four words: empathy, brainstorm, prototyping, storytelling. So empathy is all about focus on human experiences rather than product, service, processes, whatever you're designing. Focus on the human and you will see great designs coming out. Second one that we talked about is radical ideas. Trust them. They can become the best experiments that you could ever have made in your life. Prototype is all about build, fail, iterate, repeat. Prototyping is all about that. And storytelling is all about making your solutions or making the humans connect with your solution rather than bragging about or rather than boasting about the product or design that you've created. Because no one is bothered about how great you are. People are only bothered about how is your greatness meaningful to them or their lives. Great. With this, we will open it up for Q&A. But the last message that I would want to leave for all of you, while you can connect with me anytime, anywhere, I'm super active on social media and LinkedIn specifically. I'm very active, so you can find me and connect with me. But the last message that I want to leave with you before I answer questions is remember this and embrace this one principle in your life because that's what design thinking is all about. Also, humans remember businesses that remember humans. I'll again repeat. Humans remember businesses that remember humans. Embrace this principle in your life, and I'll tell you, it'll make your life happier. It'll also make you practice design thinking. And this is something that I feel that if you remember the humans at a time when they need you, they will definitely remember you at the time you need them and for whatever purpose, be it making profits, be it making revenue, be it using your product, be it giving feedback, they will remember you at that point of time. So that's my last message for you for this session. I'll open it up for Q&A. Over to you, Dr. Shabnam, for opening it up for Q&A. I'm stopping the slide share by then.
Dear participants, if you have any questions, you can post it in the chat box, or even you can unmute yourself and you can speak.
Hello, sir.
Hi,
Am I
sir. This
audible?
is Zora here.
Okay, I heard Dr. Jain first, so we'll go with Dr. Jain first and then we'll come to Zora.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Sir, I have a bit knowledge about this design thinking part, and I know there are some tools like mind mapping, empathy mapping, AIOU methods, and so many things are there. Sir, I just want to ask, like, which tool you feel that is the best one?
Okay, I'll give you my honest answer to this. Okay, something that I feel in the heart. Okay, all the tools are useless. The most powerful thing is the mindset. If you help your students build that mindset of spotting a problem, of then trying to figure out some solution and experimenting with it, I think you won't need tools also. In a more matured stage today, if I unless and until I'm attacking a very complex problem, a lot of times I don't need tools. I can see problems and I can try and figure out some solution without that. I start sketching solutions on my own, right? So remember, there are, I mean, if you talk about, I can talk about maybe 60 70 tools that I remember right now also, that these are the tools that you are, but I feel that the tools are useless. The most powerful thing is the mindset. And then tools are required only when you need to build a common language. If you want to use it within your team, if you want to use it with the people around you, you need a common language, you need a common way to kind of work on something. That's when you would need tools. But focus on the mindset first, and then you come to any of the tools that you would want to use. I mean, if you want to ask a specific answer, I feel empathy map is really powerful. I mean, just to answer your question, black and white. But my honest and from heart answer is focus on the mindset. Build that mindset within the students, and you will see that a lot of times these tools just become helping hands, and that's it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I agree, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Jain. Yes, Zora, over to you.
Yes, thank you so much. Sir, I agree what you just said that mindset is what is the need of the hour. However, when we go ahead and facilitate such learnings, the major impact that creates is through tools. Ideally, people looking at tools. However, mindset is definitely even we looking at going ahead and implementing the right mindset. But then the tool is again everybody is looking forward for some tools which would further go ahead and help them. So what do you think according to you is something which is a very innovative and a powerful and yet easy to implement kind of a tool?
I mentioned, so if you ask me, I mean, tools, there are endless number of tools that you look at, but one of the tools that I kind of find really powerful, because whenever I get stuck, see, the most difficult part in design, if you ask me, is drawing insights out of empathy. Okay, when you have to sit and draw insights out of because they are highly qualitative uh, observations and conversations that you had with your user group. And the difficult part is, how do you now structure them and draw insights out of them, right? So a lot of times I've seen design thinking practitioners also going wrong going wrong in they just take observations as insights, or they would take whatever want statements, or they said, I want this feature, those are insights. No, those are not insights. So I think that's the difficult part, and a lot of times I feel that an empathy map is a very powerful tool that can help unearth those insights, which are those conflicting. Like I gave you an example, right? That when there's a conflict in what someone is doing and someone is saying, uh, the empathy map helps you bring those out and ask those questions to that um, the conflict, and trying and figuring out that what is the need that is coming out, rather than just remaining on the wants that we see. So that's what I feel, Zura. In the entire journey, I feel a lot of times ideation. In ideation, also the difficult one is divergent, when you have to go generate more and more number of ideas, but still that is manageable. Prototyping is also manageable, but the most difficult part that I find in the design journey is the transition from empathy to inciting. How do you kind of transition into that? And that's where I feel some tools can be helpful, like empathy map or persona. These are some tools that may be helpful. Like we've used AIU also. A lot of these things have used, but see, why I say that tools are useless a lot of times, because I think the intention of having these tools is to provide helping hands. But a lot of times these tools start getting used as documentation. Saying that, okay,
Okay.
someone will say, okay, empathy map banaya kya? अगर आपने, I'll tell you one of my guys who had done their design journey with me. Now he came back and told me that in his organization, he kind of started a design journey or design experiment within his organization, and someone said, okay, you did not make an empathy map, so it is not not design thinking. That's wrong. All these tools are not for documentation. They are basically as helping hands. Wherever you get stuck, if you want to get unstuck, you can use them. If you can intuitively find stuff, I'm fine. I mean, no one will ask you that why have you not done, or no one should ask you that why have you not done a AEIOU, why have you not done a maybe fly on the wall, why have you not done any other tool? So this is what my take is this on there. Yeah, I
So
understand that
much.
a lot of people kind of say that
Yeah.
how many tools will you cover? But my normal answer to them is that
Yes.
I think I can give you 100 tools right away, but I will not do the design engagement with you. I've told this to organizations that take the toolkit. I have this toolkit that I can give you. Take this toolkit, but I'll not do any design intervention with you. Can you solve the problem without that? They said no. Precisely, that is the purpose of tools. It's to help, not the product. So tool is not
Correct.
the product.
So what I feel is, according to you, mind empathy map is something which you would kind of emphasize on. Agreed. Tools are not the only key ingredient. However, they kind of act as an helping hand in terms of brainstorming the ideate the process, right? So yeah, I will. One more thing, sir, I wanted to know, because see, designing is something I'm doing it for the first time. This is again a knowledge opening kind of a feel for me. So what you talked about prototype, I was a little lost at that moment. So I would just want to know what exactly that it is.
Okay, so Zura, again, don't get stuck with it. Understand the purpose. Okay, I think if you understand the purpose, you'll find the answer yourself also. Prototype. What is the purpose of prototype? Prototype is, you see, I have an idea. Okay, I have understood some problem in the first stage. Then I have moved and thought of some idea or some solution for that problem. Right now, I want to test whether this solution will work or not work, or what needs to be further evolved before I put it into actual development, and the solution needs to be kind of fine tuned. I need to go and understand from my users that whether this solution will work or not, or is this kind of on the track? Because I don't want to be in a situation that I build everything out, I've constructed the entire house, and when it is presented to the owner or the person who's bought it, he says, no, no, this is bad. No, I would rather want to test it early and fail early if I need to. So prototypes are meant for that. Now, there are various ways to proto stuff. You can do a paper prototype, just do a paper cut, whatever you want to do, and you present that to your customer. Like in applications, whenever we're doing digital applications or we're doing apps, we will cut the paper in a shape of a mobile screen, and we will draw it on that. We will take that entire sketch, what we do, multiple screens, to the customer, and we'll test that only with customers. So what a lot of times it gives us is, at a very early stage, we understand the failure points. That where is this app failing? Where is my customer not able to relate? Where is my customer getting lost? A lot of these things that I get at that stage. Once I get that, I throw that version up. I come up with a new version, and I can do that easily because it's very less investment gone into it, very less time gone into it. When the next version comes up, I incorporate all that feedback or whatever is possible to incorporate, and then I go to my customer again to figure what is it now relating. Thus I kind of evolve the fidelity of my prototype, and it moves to a working model straight away, slowly. So if you now understood the purpose of what a prototype is and why is it made.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for your time and patience. Thank you.
No
It was,
worries.
in fact, a very engageful and a lovely session as well.
Thank you, Zora. Yes, there was one more question that someone had raised hand and I could not. I I think he was waiting.
Yes, sir. It is a question from Mr. Santosh Kumar.
Yes,
I'll read it for you.
Yeah.
The question is how we make a simpler design which have great note on customer mindset.
How we make simpler design which have great note
on customer mindset.
In fact, design thinking helps you do that only, right? You start with your customer, you start with the user. In fact, a lot of times I always say this, that a lot of people confuse between customers and users also. In design, you focus on the user. In design, you focus majorly on the user. And if you start with the user, you start with user empathy, you then solve for that, you find out ideas, you involve your user more and more. So to answer your question, how we make simpler design, Santosh, involve the user more and more into your design process. You will see by the end of it, I mean, there's a human emotion. I always say this in design. There's a human emotion that
Maybe-
whatever we
Sir.
create, just one second. Whatever we create are the best creations that have ever happened in the world. अगर मैंने कुछ बनाया तो वो दुनिया का सबसे अच्छी चीज है. मेरा बच्चा दुनिया में सबसे अच्छा. Right? We always say this, right? Sorry to use this analogy, but I think that's human emotions and how human mind works. So if you involve your user more and more into your design journey, now you involve him to empathy, you involve him in ideation, you involve him or her in prototype testing. The more you involve, by the end of it, your user himself or herself feels that we've been a part of designing this. So it definitely they will embrace it much better, and then you kind of create stories around it rather than boasting or pushing a product. To create stories which can connect with the user group. Yes, so someone was saying something, and I said I requested for me to complete.
Sir, how we make checklist for customer needs, sir?
Checklist.
Yeah, sir, for easier for making a design.
Okay, so we know, I mean, there's no checklist and there's no rule for it, but there's a tool that we use a lot of times, if needed, is something known as value proposition canvas. So wherein what you do is you map the customer problems on one side, and you map that what you need to solve for. You kind of say that this is or whatever solution that I'm thinking of, or whatever solution I need to think of. These are the problems that I need to solve. So you either call them value proposition statements or you call it value proposition canvas. That's how you kind of map that what are the things that we need to solve for. So one more thing that I always say is that understand what is an insight. So you convert a lot of times. If I ask you that, you ask me in the empathy conversation, I said I want this cup. Okay, now this is not an insight. This is a want statement. Now, within your team, when you're wanting to draw insights, ask within the team, why does he need a cup? Why does he need a cup? You will move to the next situation, think that because he wants to have coffee, right? Why does he want to have coffee? So normally when you start asking these whys, there'll be a point where you will reach to understand the actual need that he wants to drink hot beverages in a particular quantity. That's the reason he uses this cup. So now if you want to think of that, what if we can give a person a solution to drink hot beverages, easy to hold in a particular quantity. Now this is the problem that we're trying to solve. How many different solutions can you think of rather than a cup? If I say design a cup, you will only design this. If I today tell you to sketch a chair, you will sketch a similar chair. I can guarantee you that. I've done enough number of design experiments that all of you will, चार पैर होंगे, एक बैक रेस्ट होगा और एक सिटिंग रेस्ट होगा, यही चेयर होगी सबकी, right? So that's the reason we kind of take the wants to needs, and those needs are then put into value proposition canvases, and then they kind of become a not a checklist, but they become a guiding principle for you to put your solutions up. Hope that answers your question. Okay, I take that as a yes. That answers your question. Yes, anyone else who has any other questions, thoughts? Thank you for all the nice comments that you're posting on the chat. I'm always available for any one of you who also wants to interact on the site as well, through LinkedIn or any other social medium that you would want to. But yes, any other questions, or otherwise we can hand it over to Dr. Shabnam. No, I think over to you, Dr. Shabnam.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for your very insightful and very interesting lecture. I hope all the participants must have really enjoyed it. And we really enjoyed it, sir, and we expect the same cooperation in the future as well from you. We definitely will call you for some future, some such kind of lectures and lecture series as well. So on behalf of Computer Engineering Department, I thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation and for giving your precious, valuable time and for sharing your thoughts. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much, Dr.
It's a kind request to all the participants. Kindly fill the feedback form, which has been already shared in the